Hey guys, Morgan's Maintenance. Today's tool review is going to be a new tool from Knipex. One I absolutely could not wait to get my hands on. These are the new Cobra ES versions, the extra slims. Now they do have some older versions of these, but this is the newer version. You might have saw them on the Knipex like summer release video, those kinds of things. This is the 8751 180s. So they also are going to offer these in that 250 or the 10-inch size as well. But I 100% use my 180 Cobras way more than I use my 10-inch in my line of work. I know some people are exactly the opposite. Use 10-inch all the time. I probably will not buy the 10-inch version of these, but as soon as I saw that they were going to have a 180 version, I was like, boom, as soon as I can buy those things, they're coming my way. So ultimately, what I feel like these are they are a combination of your 180 Cobras, if you've got a pair of the Standard Cobras, and then maybe a pair of pliers like the Engineer PZ60s right here that are a needle nose. But these also have that screw extraction up here. You can kind of see that little indentation. So kind of like your Knipex twin grips where the teeth go that other direction to allow you to go over, grab onto a strip screw, and then get your teeth engaged to be able to strip that in and out. Well, that's something that this pair of pliers has that the earlier version didn't have. Now, it is only on the top side, so you can kind of see right here the teeth on that one. It's not on the bottom side. So you do only have it on the top side, so it's not exactly the same as maybe a pair of screw extraction pliers, but I still feel like whatever size that you're going to use this for, it's going to be smaller screws and stuff like that. You're still going to be able to go in and grip a hold of something really well and be able to twist that screw in and out if you want to. I always use my Cobras all the time like this if I have access to be able to get to it. But the nice thing about these are that you'll be able to still use it like that if you want to, but then you can also maybe get in somewhere because of that slim profile. Maybe grab a hold of a screw like you would use a pair of needle nose for. So again, that's the biggest difference between the two. The other feature that's on this that I don't think is on the earlier version as well is also a little pin slot. You can kind of see that round groove right there. So I think they kind of intend for that to be for cotter pins or something like that. I didn't really have anything around my garage that I could see to pull it on. So if I take this nail and kind of slide it into that slot and then grip down, it doesn't move left and right in there. It kind of locks that into place. Also not moving in and out. So if you need to grab a hold of a pin, pull it out. Or if you really wanted to and you want an expensive pair of save your thumbs when you use a hammer, you could put your nail in there, stick it over here, and then start it with the nail, with the hammer as well. Maybe save yourself from hitting yourself in the thumb. But overall, those are the features on it. In my opinion, it is a combination Cobra slash, not exactly a needle nose, because you're definitely going to get somewhere in a little bit tighter and a little bit farther away with one of those, but it's kind of a combination of those two. So to compare it to a regular Cobra size-wise, because these, in my opinion, they might end up just kind of swapping out my bag for these, except for there are some times where I think the head of this is an advantage, but then also it might be a disadvantage sometimes too. So I'm going to change the angle a little bit so I'll be able to get a little bit better views of these side by side, and then we'll take a look at the two together. So again, looking at that ES version, if I measure it I'm going to go from tip up here to end of handle, you're at that 7¼ inch. So that's exactly what that is versus the standard Knipex. I'm right at that 7¼ inch. So they're basically the same exact length. If you line them up right there and they're in the closed position, even though it kind of comes out a little bit weird, but it's because that head kind of shapes out a little bit. So they're exactly the same size and length, not much difference in that. Again, the biggest difference is going to be that head. As far as the thickness of them, I don't see any major difference as far as the thickness of them. It could be very slight. The biggest difference is obviously going to be the thickness here, and then also the length right here. So thickness here on the head on the Knipex is 1 inch on the ES version, maybe a little less. I'm going to call that 7/8 at the thickest part right there, versus if I go on up to the Cobra, you're looking at basically right at 1 inch. So 1/8 inch difference that way. Lengthwise on the original Cobra, I'm looking at 2 inches from the end to the back side, versus on the ES version, I'm looking at basically about 2¼ inches. So all the measurements don't really seem right whenever you do it, because it seems like it is drastically different. I guess the best way to maybe show that length is if I take something like this and I put this up against there. That's the farthest that you'd be able to reach in to get a hold of something. So there's the original Cobra right there. And then if I come back in with the ES, you can kind of see that's the amount of extra kind of length or reach or whatever it is you want to call it to be able to get in somewhere and maybe get to something. And then you can also kind of see the difference in that thickness. You can kind of see the original Cobra sticking up over top of the other one right there. That's not that big of a difference, but the length to me is a bigger deal. And again, other than that, they're pretty much the same. So I don't know that there's going to be a lot of difference in feel, use case scenario, all those kinds of things. I never ran the extra slim version before. This is the only version I've picked up. So I'm curious to see if the head is an advantage or disadvantage. But again, this head also has the screw extraction, the little pin, and then the teeth. The one thing that I did notice, this might be a good look for somebody as well. Let me kind of get to a position. Looking at this hex. So if I come in and kind of grab that with the standard jaw part that you would normally use, you can kind of see for sure how much more of that teeth is kind of hanging out. So the location of your S or whatever it is that you want to call that inside of the Cobra, if you're going to use that right there, let me go up one more click just to kind of get it a little bit better. So if I come in and grab a hold of that, you can see how much I've got hanging off over here versus if I come in with that regular Cobra. I think that's a big difference as far as, even though the size is not drastically bigger, it's the kind of the location of that jaw. So I've only got very little hanging off versus here, I've got quite a bit. That's where the real difference comes in on the head, is that you've got this right here that might end up getting in your way sometimes if you're trying to use them in a way that you would use your regular Cobras. But then there's also going to be times where that extra length might become a big advantage. But overall, first impression, that right there is the biggest difference between the two. So before I close this video, I probably forgot one really important thing, is one of them so happened to open more than the other one. So here is the Cobra, button all the way down, grip closed as far as it goes. Same thing on the ES. If I stick them side by side, you can see the ES is slightly more than the other. This one measured out at 1 5/16 inches in this position and 1 7/16 inches. So an 1/8 inch of a difference. Not a huge difference. And plus, in my opinion, if you're on something that's that big and it's torqued in any way with this handle right here, you're going to have a hard time getting it off anyway. So I don't think that's that big of a deal. So I'm going to basically swap this out in my bag with these right here to see how much this head comes into play. Is it something that I feel like is going to be an advantage more often than not, or am I going to wish sometimes that I've actually got the smaller profile head with me as well? So I'm curious to know your guys' feedback. If you've been running a pair of the older versions of these, or if you've picked up a pair of these, maybe you've got a pair of these and you've been running them for some time and you also have a pair of Cobras, which one do you kind of grab more? I'm curious to get your feedback on that. But again, overall, that's the features on this one. Slim profile, a little bit of screw extraction, also that pin puller type thing. Other than that, it's pretty much your standard type plier from Knipex. I feel like it's going to be a good one, and I love the fact that they came out with that 180 size. So again, letting you know that it's out there. May have missed something. If I did, just drop a question down below. But as always, I hope this video was helpful. You guys stay safe. Have a blessed day. I'll see you on the next video.